Be- Before we dive into the workshop, I'd like to first share a video we put together to introduce ourselves. We'll also love to get to know everyone who's here. So while the video is playing, please feel free to share your name, where you're joining from, and an activity that you may like to do with the kids.
Hi, I'm Callie Doherty from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm the mother to a wonderful 13-year-old named Sebastian and a feisty year-and-a-half-old named Dahlia. I am also the executive director for Walker's Point Youth and Family Center, where I have the privilege of ensuring vulnerable youth in my community get the support that they need every day.
Hello, my name is Stefan Palmer. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. I am a member of the PAB. I have 5 children.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Hill. I live in Philadelphia. I work with the women of color in the Global Women's Strike. I take care of 3 grandchildren, ages 12, 14, and 18.
Hi everyone, my name is Tia Simmons. I'm a third-year law student from Hurricane, West Virginia, and a member of the PAB. I'm also a mother of 2 rambunctious little ones and a caregiver to my niece.
Hello, my name is Joseph Yusuf. I am from Washington, D.C. I have a beautiful, beautiful 13-year-old daughter. I am a parent advisory board member for the Automatic Benefit for Children.
Hi, my name is Chloe Medina and I live in California. I'm a mom of 4 boys, ages 16, 15, 12, and 5, including a child with autism, and I'm a proud PT leader and community advocate.
Hi everyone, my name is Hương Vũ, and I am a mom of 2 children who live in Massachusetts.
Hello, my name is Reagan Selden, and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, along with my husband. Together we have 6 children and 3 grandchildren. Their ages are 27, 2 26-year-olds, 23-year-old, 17-year-old, and a 13-year-old. Wow. And we have 3 grandchildren, and they are stair steps, 3, 2, and 1.
I started working with the ABC because I wanted to revamp and improve the system so more families can benefit from the CTC.
I became a member of the Parent Advisory Board because it's so important to me to make sure that children and caregivers have what they need to survive and to thrive.
I became a member of the PAB because I believe in advocacy for our children, not just for my children, but for all of our children. I've always believed that my why nots have to be louder than the no's that my children hear.
I began advocating for parents in Hartford, Connecticut that did not receive it, and for parents that did receive it that felt it should have been a larger amount.
And when families they have resources they need, children are better to focus on learning, growing, and reaching their full potential.
I advocate for the child tax credit because during the pandemic, I got it, and it took a lot of pressure off of me, and it helped me catch up with my bills and eat healthy food.
Receiving the child tax credit meant relief. It meant being able to afford what my children needed, like food, clothes, sports equipment, and therapies, and for a moment not having to carry that stress alone. Our kids deserve more, and our families do too.
I received the CTC in a time where I needed to make this end and this end meet. And so because of the CTC, those ends were able to come together. It was in a time of uncertainty and a time of just sadness, actually. But I believed in it. It was great when I received it, and I am advocating to not only keep it, but to increase it. So that is why I'm here. That is my why. So welcome. Let's get this party started.
We also have a couple parents who cannot make it tonight, but we know they are here with us in spirit. Next, I will pass it to my friend, Mr. Palmer, to tell you a little bit more about ourselves and the work of the Parent and Caregiver Advisory Board and the work we will do together this evening.
Hello, everyone. I am Stefan Palmer. We are the Parent and Caregiver Advisory Board, also known as the PAB. We bring our experience as parents to our community leaders and advocates. Together, we lead the Automatic Benefit for Children, or ABC Coalition, which is a group of organizations from across the country who are all committed to advancing a cash benefit that helps families forgive me, I got my children running around distracting me. Committed to advancing a cash benefit that helps families with the cost of raising children with work with these organizations to educate lawmakers about the importance of expanding the child tax credit, or the CTC, so it actually meets families' needs. So you can learn more about the coalition and the work on our website. Today's workshop, we will focus on why the CTC matters to us and how parent stories can be powerful tools to creating change. We'll start with a short presentation on how the works and why we believe it can work better for the families. Then we will share how we use our lived experience to create policy change so that families have what they need, and how you can too. You will leave today with a better understanding of what the CTC is, how we can improve the CTC so it helps more families, and how you can tell your story to influence lawmakers to expand the CTC and other family supports. Before we get started, I want to just remind everyone that we are parents and grandparents who are passionate about fighting for a cash allowance for children, we are not tax experts. We are helpful resources. Nothing we share here should be considered legal or tax advice. If you have any questions about your personal tax situation, it's always best to contact a professional. We have also created a toolkit for you that provides information about the child tax credit, works, and resources that can help you access it, as well more comprehensive guide to how to efficiently tell your story to influence policy change. We will be sharing links to that toolkit over the course of this evening's workshop, and also share it via email to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer, for sharing those remarks. Moving ahead with our presentation, Hung and Reagan will jumpstart our workshop with a deep dive into the child tax credit and how it works. The CTC is a complicated policy, and if we want to improve it, we all need to understand who it helps and who it leaves behind today, so that we can work with policymakers to improve it moving forward.
Thank you, Joseph. And Regan and I are going to talk about what the child tax credit is. And we also explain for everybody how much families can receive, who qualifies for that benefit, and why it is very important to fight for a better child tax credit. Can you move to the next slide, please? All right, so on the slide, we're gonna explain for you about what is the child tax credit, which is the CTC. The child tax credit is a federal tax benefit that designed to help families with the cost of raising their own children. As a tax credit, it reduces the amount of taxes that a family owns, and in many cases, if the credit is larger than what someone owns in taxes, they can receive the remaining amount as a tax refund. And
Last year in 2025, Congress made some changes to the CDC, and we are going to walk through what the child tax credit look like now, and that those changes are in effect and how it will impact your family when you file taxes for this year. All right, so in 2025, is to $2,200 per child for any children under the age of 17 through the child tax credit. But the exact amount a family receives really depends on two main factors. So the first factor will be how many children you claim on your tax return and the income of the year. So while like $2,200 is the maximum per child, but not every family receives that full amount. And that leads us into a very important question. How does income affect how much families can receive? So the child tax credit works in what we call like a phase-in structure. Of families with no income will get like $0 as a child tax credit. And they need to earn about $2,500 in earnings to receive the CEC, and phases in above that until you receive the full benefit. I can give example from my own family. So my family is married filing jointly with 2 children, and we would need to have like the income, which is like around $41,500 in income to receive the full credit. So essentially, families with very low incomes may receive only part of the credit, or sometimes none of the benefit. Okay, so who can claim the CEC? Parents, grandparents, or other close relatives who are raising their children, who are supporting a child. And to qualify, the child generally needs to live with the caregiver for more than half the year, and all the requirements must be met. There is also an important rule. At least one parent and the child being claimed must have the Social Security number. And now I would love to turn over to Regan, and she's going to share an example of how this works for a specific family. Regan?
Thanks, Hong. Sorry, I was having trouble coming off mute. I was so interested in what you were saying. Hi again, this is Reagan Selden. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania with my 6 children. So this slide will show an example family, the Cannon family, and they have 4 children, which are 2 less than what I have, and their ages are 6, 12, 15, and 17. Since the child tax credit applies only to children under 17, they are eligible for the 3 younger children. In theory, they could receive 3 times $2,200, which equals $6,600. But income affects the amount they actually receive. In this example, let's say the mother earns $25,000 as a pre-K teacher's aide, and the father is currently in school and not earning income. Because of how the credit is calculated, they only receive $3,375, which is about half of the full amount they could potentially receive. This example highlights how families with lower incomes often receive less support. And this leads to a bigger issue with the current policy. Right now, many children do not receive the full child tax credit. For example, about 19 million children do not receive the full credit because their families' incomes are too low. I'm going to say that again. 19 million children do not receive the full credit And millions more children are excluded because of Social Security number requirements that are affecting caregivers or children. So, even though the credit is meant to support families raising children, many of the families who need it most are not fully benefiting. But we've seen that the program can work differently. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Congress temporarily expanded the child tax credit. Temporarily. In 2021, several changes were made. Families with low or no income could receive the full credit. The credit increased to up to $3,600 per child. Payments were delivered monthly for 6 months, and 17-year-olds were included. As a result, child poverty fell by nearly half during this time. This showed how powerful the child tax credit can be when it reaches more families, and if not all families. So, what are we pushing for? Many of us believe the child tax credit should be strengthened. Looking back at the benefits of expanding CTC in 2021 for many families, the CTC made a huge difference. I know it did in mine. It helps families. It helps them to pay for their daily needs, reduce financial stress, and support children's health and education. That is why we, as the PAB, developed the CTC principles to make it more meaningful for families. Children and families with low or no income should receive the full credit. And the CTC should be fully available to all children in immigrant families. The CTC should be increased to at least $6,000 annually or $500 a month, at least. Families should be able to receive monthly payments to help with everyday expenses. And the IRS should be funded with adequate resources to ensure smooth delivery of the CTC and to provide additional support to families facing barriers to this access.
If you aren't smiling or like at your computer just applauding, I don't know what to tell you. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing that. We've now talked about what we'll like to see the CTC provide for families, but how do we, the parents, raise our voices to make this vision a reality? Callie, what can you tell us about how storytelling is the magic ingredient for advocacy?
Thank you, Joseph. I know I'm definitely smiling after listening to them both speak. I'm now going to lead us through a mini training on how we can share our stories to influence policy change. We, as the PAB, do this all of the time. When we're talking to policymakers about the child tax credit, but these lessons are meant for relevance for you all when you're influence any policy you want to see change. So while we're focused tonight on the child tax credit, you can use this lessons you learned from many other things. So let's get started. We can go back. Sorry. So we're going to go through why we tell stories and how to do it safely, the roadmap to how to tell your story, some tips and tricks for how to share, and then we're going to go through some tips that I've heard from a congressional staffer when sharing with my representatives. So why should we tell stories? First and foremost is because you can bust myths and influence policymakers. Stories are 22 times more likely to be remembered than data alone. A story's emotional impact can overcome apathy and promote equity. People can grasp concepts more effectively when a story is used to illustrate the point. Stories can connect with people on a personal and an emotional level. So the number one thing I want you all to remember is self-care when you're sharing. Only share what feels comfortable to you. Share from your scars, not your wounds. That means if there's something that you're actively going through right now and you're not fully processing it, it might not be the best time to share. Some people thrive when they're actively experiencing something and they want to process through that in a different way. But some of us need to get through the experience first before they feel comfortable sharing. So, whatever makes sense to you, please do that. Make sure that you have supports. Be, before you get started, make sure there's somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, somebody that you trust. When you're done sharing, make sure that you have someone to share your feelings with and your vulnerability. And remember that no one else has the right to share your story. So, first, we're going to pick an advocacy ask. For the purpose of this storytelling experience, we're going to focus on the child tax credit. So look at your experiences and pick something related to the child tax credit that you would like to speak about. Now find a connection to the policy. Was it that you did or did not receive the credit? How did it impact your family and your own personal experience? We're going to craft your story. We're going to practice. And then we're going to talk about places where you can share your story. So step number one is picking a moment to share. You have a lifetime of experiences and a really short time to share with your lawmakers. So pick something that aligns with the reason for your meeting. So today we're here to talk about the child tax credit. So while I have experience in several other programs, I'm not going to be sharing those with you because I want to focus on the CTC. So pick one moment and at one relevant time in your life and talk about how that impacted you. We're going to connect it to the policy. How can this story illustrate the policy in action? Or maybe it's a lack of services in action. Did the policy help you achieve a goal? Did it support you and your needs in a positive way? Or maybe you didn't have access to it. Maybe you're one of the families that is trying to receive the full tax credit and not able to. Or for some other reason that has been implemented, you aren't accessing the credit at all. How could it help your family if you had access to it? How would your life be different with that support? Next, we want to make sure to add impact. Provide a clear perspective and solution. How did this experience change your life? How did it improve or disrupt the direction in your life? Make sure you know your audience. Everyone you share this with is going to have a different perspective. So how do they feel about the policy? Is there something else that they care about that you could relate back to the CTC? Do they have any similar experiences to you that you could bring up? And what elements of your story are going to stick out to the particular audience that you're sharing with that day? So now we're going to talk about where to share your story. You can share your story really anywhere. Number one for us is lobby meetings, fundraising events, writing it down in a letter to the editor or an op-ed, going to a town hall or an organizational meeting. So try these tips. Make sure that the story is personal. Share names, places, dates, with permission, of course. Bring a photo if it relates. Practice your story with a group, with your friends, with the mirror, whatever you think is going to be helpful to you. There are so many options to practice before you get started to feel really confident when you share. Make sure that you tell stories, when you're telling stories, that you're taking care of yourself. Only tell stories that are true. Make sure it directly relates to the topic at hand. Make sure that your story has actions and consequences. Talk about what was lost or gained in the moment and how did it impact you. Make sure that you're respecting time limits. The power of your story doesn't come from the amount of words that you speak, but how Not how long you speak, but from the words that you're speaking. Don't attempt to explain a culture or a community that you're not part of. Don't overcomplicate things. Make sure that it's simple, but also powerful. Don't just retell the story, relive it. This is your experience. Let the audience know how important this was to you and how it impacted you. Don't forget to breathe. A pause before a plot twist or a point in your story can really amplify the impact. And most importantly, do not forget your ask. You are there to make sure that they hear about the importance of the CTC. What actions do you want them to take on it? So some tips from a congressional staffer. You don't have to know specific bills. We don't work in the office. They do. We're here to share our experiences and how the things that they're doing impact day-to-day people. What's important is connecting your experience to your ask. Make sure you relate to the office. What kind of things can you find out about your politician prior to the meeting? Make sure to ask them questions. Build rapport with the staffer. Stay in touch with the office. Don't just reach out when you need something. Let them know all the different great things you're working on. Did you speak at something recently? Did you get that op-ed published? Send it over to them. And make sure that you're tailoring your asks to the office that you're talking to. So now we're going to break out into small groups. So before, I'll let Carolyn explain what we're going to do together in those small groups.
Fine. Go ahead. Fine. Time to find your stories. Breakout room. Thank you, Kelly. This is the best part because you get to practice sharing your whys or what motivates you to be here today and to advocate for more support for families like yours. Lawmakers need to hear from you. Real people who are really being affected by unrealistic laws. Powerful storytelling takes practice. We are going to split up into a breakout room for 10 minutes where everyone will get a chance to connect with each other and share what motivated them. You will be moved automatically into a breakout room, but any parent who would like to join the Spanish language breakout room, please go to room 2.
Definitely about to get my dance moves out here. Thank you all for participating in the break room discussions. I heard some very moving whys, and I'm excited for you all to go out and tell your stories to advocate. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. I heard some very moving whys, and I'm excited for you all to go out and tell your stories to advocate for families and spark change. Being clear about what motivates you makes your story more powerful and helps your audience understand the issue. Next up, Tia is going to share one way that you can share your story right now with lawmakers to improve the CTC.
Thank you, Joseph. I'm Tia Simmons from Hurricane, West Virginia. Now that you have talked about what motivates you, it is time to work on your ask and fine-tune it to your audience. For example, are you going to Capitol Hill to convince lawmakers to listen? Or do you want to stay local and help get the word out about the CTC? Or maybe you want to take your story to the media, like many of us on the PAB have. I'm going to show you one way that you can share your story and make your ask to your representative in Congress in real time while we are in this workshop together. We all know that our lawmakers love talking about numerical data and dollar amounts, the numbers behind the policy. But as much as they love talking numbers, it's the stories of their constituents that really move them into action. Tonight, you've learned how to share your story in a high impact way. Now it's time to put what you've learned into action. We would like to invite you to share your story with your local lawmakers. Share with them how a real expanded CTC would make a difference for your family. And we have made that easy for you. Our partners over at the Children's Defense Fund have helped us create an easy to use action link where you can simply plug in your personal information into the appropriate sections. And when you're finished, it will automatically send to your lawmakers' email addresses based on the zip code that you input. We are sharing a link in the chat. On the screen now is what you will see when you click that link and arrive on the landing page. This first screen is to collect your personal identifiers so that the letter goes to the correct senators and Congress members who represent you. If you'll just navigate there with me, please, click on the link in the chat and just take a moment to type in your first and last name, your physical address, your email address, and phone number. Then you'll check that little box at the bottom if you would like to receive important updates via text message from the Children's Defense Fund. I'll just allow everyone a few seconds to get there and get your information in, and everyone can just please tell me if I'm moving too fast. As you'll see, once you type in your email address and check that little box, that form is going to populate for your representatives automatically and expand downward. So this is a letter to Congress asking them to work on expanding the child tax credit to help it reach more families, to make sure that it is increased, to help with rising costs of living, and to get everyone the option of having their CTC delivered monthly like they did after COVID, instead of just once a year. Please take a moment to carefully review the action alert. Don't just click on the button to send. The sample letter that you see here is a starting point, but your message will be far more impactful if you personalize it to reflect your own experience with the child tax credit. To ensure that you are sending the strongest letter possible, we encourage you to share some of the information we've been talking about here tonight. You'll want to include the number of children in your household and any personal experiences that illustrate how the CTC has impacted your family in the past, and take a moment to discuss how changes to the CTC would have an impact on your family moving forward, or what changes to the CTC you would most like to see and why. In other words, consider typing in just a couple of sentences about how the child tax credit helps your family now and how your family would use it if it provided even more support in the future. How could it be used to change your lives for the better? Personalized messages help policymakers better understand the real-life impacts of their decisions and why this issue truly matters to the people that they represent. That's what they need to hear. So I'll just give everyone 3 more minutes to edit and personalize the letter so we can complete it now if you choose to do so. When you are finished editing your letter, just click the box at the bottom of the form that says sign up now to send it to your representative. All right. Thanks so much to those of you who used this action alert during your time with us tonight. If you did not have time to complete the letter just now, or if you wish to come back to it later, that link will be available for you to do so. You can save it now, or it will be included in our follow-up email as well. And please share it with your friends. The more, the merrier. I appreciate you taking this step in your advocacy journey with me tonight. Together, we can ensure the brightest possible futures for our families and, most importantly, for our children. Next, I'll pass it over to Chloe to talk a little about the remainder of the ABC Coalition's 2026 tax campaign and what else you can do to help. Chloe?
Thank you, Tia. Hello, I'm Chloe from Orange County, California. Thank you all so much for joining us for our advocacy workshop on the CTC. Before we wrap up tonight, I want to share how you can stay involved in our work. After this workshop, you will get a follow-up email. It will include everything we talked about tonight, as well as how you can add your story to our campaign to improve the CTC. We are also creating a mailing list for parents to stay connected and learn more about opportunities to advocate for the CTC and other family policies in the future. We will share the opportunity to join our mailing list in an email after this call. The email you'll receive will also include a resource for parents to support your continued engagement, our ABC Coalition Parent Advocacy Toolkit. Inside the toolkit, you will find a guide on how to advocate for a stronger CTC by posting on social media, writing to your member of Congress, or writing a letter to the editor of your local paper. You'll also find a storytelling guide and worksheet to help you share your story. And last but not least, resources on the CTC, like the PAB Child Tax Credit Priorities, a child tax credit FAQ that answers common questions, and resources on how to seek additional tax help. Right now, through tax day on April 15th, the ABC Coalition is running a campaign to let lawmakers know that families need more from the child tax credit. Parents across the country are speaking up and sharing their stories so that policymakers understand how important this support is for not only our children, but families. One of the easiest things you can do right away is share your story on social media and tag your member of Congress using the hashtags hashtag child tax credit and hashtag our kids deserve more.
Hashtag we are the future, baby. Thank you. Thank you, Chloe, and thank you to everyone for joining us tonight and for being a part of this important work to make sure all families receive the support they deserve. Many of us are struggling, but we know if we work together, we can bring change. We look forward to continuing working with you in the coming months to raise our voices together so policymakers hear us and families get the financial support they need to raise their children. Hashtag thank you all.